What's up, my friends? Today is an interesting day because we're going back in time. We're using the Wayback Machine on the internet to look at my own personal website from, I think we're looking at 2016. But the era that this website looks at spans a time of around 2010 to 2016. So let's look at that. Let me show you what I'm saying. This is the homepage, but what we're going to focus on is down here, these articles. These articles were interesting because each of them was a bespoke design. I redesigned from the ground up every article. It wasn't just a regular blog. These were custom designed articles. Now, this is how you would enter the articles, or you could see a list of them here. We'll jump into the articles all here. We've listed them here, and as you can see, and scroll down, they start at January of 2010 and they end around December of 2014. This article here, 32 Years of Poetry, I remember making that, and I did that for the YouTube channel of Dev Tips that I was making at the time. Let's take a look at that one. This is the article here, and I put the development of this article as a post on my YouTube channel, Dev Tips. Essentially, the reason this one exists is because every year on my birthday, I try to remember my whole life. It sounds funny, but it's true. I try to do some kind of thing, maybe it's an art project, maybe it's a personal thing that I do, but I have some representation of my entire life. And on this one, I created a graph of, my happiness. There's a happiness baseline, and when you mouse over any of these years, there's a haiku that accompanies that year and kind of summarizes my experience that year. When you scroll down, I translated the vertical scroll to a horizontal and pop up these little haikus every time there's a new year. I love you. I know you love me. All I need. Some of these are really, really sweet. This is when my daughter was born. My little girl, you're a precious little thing. My son, hello son, are you ready to live? I'll be here. It's really nice. So this was for my 32nd birthday. That's how I celebrated. Let's continue on. Look at these other ones. Okay, midlife crisis. Yeah, this one is pretty tough because this is about a time I broke my arm skating in San Francisco on a longboard down the slopes there. I have an x-ray of my broken arm here, and the story written out, and each of these little panels slides out. I talk about the drugs that they gave me afterwards and kind of how that made me feel. And actually after breaking my arm and having surgery on it, there's like 8 screws in my arm right now. But anyhow, after that, my right arm became paralyzed and I could not lift it more than this. It was like this for a while, and eventually I could lift it. But it took around 6 months of paralysis of my arm, and this kind of article is all about that. Yeah, extensive damage to my radial nerve. It was such a scary time. I remember not being able to wash myself or cook food very well. It was weird. Anyway, the happier times. Here's a surf day that was commemorated in this article. I went on a surfing trip with my friend, and you can see a lot of the design choices here. I'm writing intentionally putting paragraphs on top of paragraphs, and I have a little gallery here. It looks like photographs that are just kind of thrown on the table of me and my friend Sam on our surf day. Yeah, those are good memories. Oh, cool. And each one is, I forgot I did this. Yeah, each one is labeled, and then you can close the images here. That's cool. All right, let's continue on. There's a lot of articles to get through here. This one is just a funny CSS exploration. I was inspired by Steve Jobs, who's saying, look, artistry is not about the thing you think about. It's about the thing you put out. Real artistship. And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that today. Although I appreciate process, Steve has got a point. If it doesn't get out there, it's not alive. It's not art, Think about it. I'm not sure if it's true. Hipster romance. Yeah, so I was really, really excited about this camera app called Hipstamatic. And we moved from Las Vegas to the Bay Area, and I used that camera to document the move and create this little story. So On these flip over, and if you click them, before leaving Las Vegas, we visited the Cosmopolitan, and on the day we packed our lives into a trailer, Parker and I went to the park to play. And so there's a whole story here when you flip these over, and it kind of tells the story of our journey from Las Vegas to Oakland and to California. This was the big move of our lives, and it's really fun to see it documented here like this. This next one is a bit of a cheeky chat with Justin. This is all in the web, and I made it look like my desktop because I was an Apple fanboy, and I was writing Justin to ask about the availability of an iPad, but I kept on flirting with him as a joke, and I thought that was funny, and so yeah, that's that article. So all of these articles, some are extremely meaningful. Like this one here, this is a photograph of my daughter, the first few minutes of her life. And, I was into photography back then. That was kind of like I was on the border of being a photographer or being a designer, later on being a coder, but ultimately ended up being a designer. Yeah. Oh, Steve, slide to remember. Okay. So there's got the little shine effect here in CSS, and as you slide over, it darkens. This was to commemorate Steve Jobs' passing. I won't read it to you, but there's a lot to be said about Steve Jobs, especially lately. In retrospect, everybody has something to say, But what really impacted me was the work that he did. He enabled me to have a computer, honestly. He enabled me to have a career in the space that I do. And for that is worth mentioning. Each of these vignettes here is a little story that I wanted to write, and I plan to write one every day for the rest of the month, I guess. I have 25 slots here. But ultimately, I only wrote 9 of them. We got rid of our television. We haven't had a TV in over a decade. Most people have TVs in their houses. We never have, except for when we first started our family. But yeah, this was documenting what it's like to get rid of a television in the modern age. It felt like such a weird idea back then. And that was like before streaming services and iPhones and all that. Now it just doesn't make much of a difference, but back then it was important. This is an article about making friends. Just this idea that when you go to the restroom and, the stalls, there's that rule, like if there's 2 dudes at a stall, you don't go in the middle. And I was trying to say why not? Okay, I'm really into comic books, or at least I was at the time of writing this. And so I found all of my favorite comic books, and I kind of listed them here with an explanation of why I love them and what's the OMG moment, Imagine Wolverine runs around the world guided by 2 imaginary angels sitting on his shoulder who don't exist. This is such a great story. All of these are really, really great stories. Art and design and photography is so important. Storytelling is a big deal to me. And comic books are a big part of that. And so I captured that with this article. Next, root beer tasting. So I was really big into root beer for quite a while. And one week, I think it was actually the same week that I broke my arm earlier. But anyway, I grab a bunch of root beers and I test them and I give them a rating, a pour it out rating or a drink it up rating. So, the reader could scroll through this and find some good root beer recommendations. That's what this article's all about. Yeah. New York. Oh yeah, my first trip to New York City. I documented it. I documented it pretty heavily. There used to be a map that showed up here, and I'm pretty sad that it's not rendering. That's the problem with the Wayback Machine. You never know exactly what you're going to get. Every day I was there, I mapped out my walking route, and I walked the city 30 miles in those 4 days, and I saw everything that I could. I saw 23 landmarks. Here are all the landmarks that I saw. I made a little icon for each one of them and described what that's all like. I took 400 photographs, mostly on Wednesday, I guess. I took 187 photographs on Wednesday. But each of the photographs is right here, or at least some of them, of New York, my first trip. Yeah. Such a memory. Miscellaneous stats. I read 14 comics, 32 hours in the streets. I like walking the streets. If I go to a new city, I spend most of my time walking around the city. for me, that's the best way to get to know a city, is just to walk around and eat the pizza. 2 hotels, 4 pizza slices, and 1 home-cooked meal. Yeah. New York City. What a time. A thoughtful article about responsibility in the workplace. This article is inspired by a quote from Neil Gaiman, who says, "Don't be the repository for your organization's problems and let them bubble up from the source." An interesting article. I was really into Rage comics back then. Oh, this next one is called Train Ride Jams. Each of these is a little loop or a song that I created while I was on the train riding to work. And, just counting them out, timing them out, knowing the beats per minute, I created the animation to pulse along with the song. So each of these, they're different. And, ooh, double kick. Nice. It's a shame that this stuff doesn't exist anymore except on the Wayback Machine. This is pretty cool stuff. Man, this is way back when I was into music production. Now it's a little bit more complicated than, just an iPhone app, but... Nice. All right, let's continue on. Oh, yeah, when I redesigned Apple's music app. Oh, man. This is great. I also have a little demo here. Yeah. So this demo is actually all done live in CSS. It's a CSS animation. It's not a video, which was kind of fun at the time. Kind of made me excited to put it out. And I'm glad I did it that way, because if it was a video, it probably wouldn't have lasted so long on the Wayback Machine. I don't think they would capture videos. So the only reason we can see this animation as it is right here is because it was done in CSS. A lot of interesting ideas too. It's weird because I actually work right now on a music streaming app. It's pretty wild. Speaking of music, one of the more interesting articles here is actually a song that I wrote and performed and kind of annotated here. The song itself is kind of like a really heavy, distorted rap song with a melodic interlude. I'm hesitant to press play. Let's see if it works. Yeah. Oh, shit. Okay, binary enzymes act like cracked digital addicts. This song is wild. Okay, I'm gonna have to go back and listen to that after I make this video. Let's see, this one is about moving again. We moved to Redwood City, which is a little town in California. And if you move these handles into the right place, planting new roots among the redwoods, it becomes a title of the article. And it's just this little house with roots coming out of it amongst the redwoods. Yeah, this is when I left Spark Art, one of my first jobs in Oakland. And I went to work with a startup called Mash Logic, who renamed themselves a few times and then was eventually acquired by Groupon, of all things. Oh, this article is one of my favorites that I've ever written, because when you first show up, it is just the title of the article. And if you scroll, each line appears to you one by one as you scroll. So it's a it's an experiment in kind of piecemealing concepts until you have the whole picture. And this is kind of like how reading is supposed to be. And I really love the way it just reveals and kind of unravels the idea and the questions as it goes on. Wow. All right. A 30-year playlist. Oh yeah, like I said, I tend to do kind of installations or designs or concepts for each of my birthdays. I try to remember my entire life during my birthday. And this one here, I did a playlist. So, for year 1, it was Michael Jackson, and you can go to the previous and next buttons to get the next song. And there's a timeline here of all the different, here's Wu-Tang. How old was I when I loved Wu-Tang? 30 years. I'm not sure if each song corresponds to a year or if these are just 30 songs now that I'm 30. But, oh man, yeah. And each of them has a personal note attached to it. So you could essentially, read, this is an annotated playlist here. There's keyboard controls too. Check this out. Yeah, opening, nice. Suicide Medicine. Night Drive. Mating Phenomenon. I took it. Oh, wow. Oh, Better Together. Let's read this. There was a point where the songs in your playlist are no longer your own, but shared with another. And through this, they become more meaningful and expressive. Jana and I saw our story so much in the sweet song that we decided to dance to it at our wedding. We held our hands tighter as it came on the radio. We stared into each other's eyes and whispered amongst ourselves, yes, it is better when we're together. It's very sweet. Very sweet. Gorillas. Let's read that note. Shortly after I married my makeout princess, her mother got married. All right, next article. Okay, this is a layer tennis activity that I asked John to do. My friend and I would send each other Photoshop files, and we'd send the same file back and forth and edit it and send it back like a tennis match, volley. In space, no one can hear you shred. And then he says, from space, no one cares about your tweets. Still true. John's a visionary. He always has been. Using Twitter, it's like pissing in an ocean of piss. John. Okay. Spheres of Influence is an article I wrote after my grandfather died. I was really interested in kind of discovering that his life was pretty sad. It was full of anger and pain, and he alienated and hurt a lot of different people. And in this article, I was trying to dissect what makes a good life, what makes somebody influential and powerful or even impactful to other people. Talk a little bit about a sphere of influence and what is this? The qualitative segment of your influence. Yeah. Old versus Neue. This is a study of Helvetica and Helvetica Neue, or Neue Helvetica as it should be known. It's a story about Max Miedinger and the design of Helvetica, and even Eric Spiekermann, who helped redesign it. And I wanted to know the difference. I always see them in my font list, Helvetica, Neue Helvetica. And so I dissected every letter here, overlaid them, and kind of like looked at the difference between them, and like, okay, the M and the R have a lot of differences, a few of the numerals, but mostly it's very, very similar, the fonts themselves and the spacing between them. This one was the first one that I ever did, and you can see it's a lot more basic than the others. I was interested mainly if I could create an interesting typographic layout, which I would say it's successful in the way that it does create interest with this pull quote. But at the same time, it's very, very basic and very early on, as you can see. But the ideas in here are pretty strong as an article. 2 truths and 1 lie. Have you ever played that game? Let me tell you. So in this one, what am I doing here? If I scroll, there's a parallax, and this illustration here is one line, and it connects all of these. I played this game, 2 truths and 1 lie, and this illustration, that's an illustration of my face and a photograph I took of myself a while ago. Ooh, it even has my wedding ring, which I've been missing for like 10 years now. And this line connects every illustration and story. There's a story about me being a champion Nintendo Entertainment System player. There's one where I got handcuffed for fishing in a water fountain at 2 a.m. True story. Yeah, this is all one line, one vector line here. And then the last one, oh yeah, the time I was really into making out with my wife, still am. But the first time I ever made $1,000, I went to the bank and withdrew it in ones, and I went over to her house and I had $1,000 in my backpack in singles. And I threw it in the air and I said, "Let's make out." And we just made out in this money. And after a while, we were like, you know what? This money kind of stinks. This is a discussion on typography because I wanted to help people understand the difference of these type terms. So type design is when you're crafting a usable typeface. Typography is when you're applying and organizing the placement of type to a page. And then, of course, the lettering is the art of making beautiful custom letter forms for a unique feel. And so that was supposed to help people understand the difference between those. And these are all just kind of vectors or SVGs that kind of zoom in and out. 5 lies I was told. I remember writing this in the cracks of my wakeful evenings. I couldn't sleep one night and I started writing the lies that I knew and what is told and kind of how they've played out in my life. Lie number 1, that comfort is the goal. And each of these photographs are photographs that I was taking at a time. As I said earlier, I was really, really into this app called Hipstamatic. I still use it from time to time. Be careful or you will run out of money. That's not necessarily a lie, but the fear of that, the fear of loss, it's like a mindset of lack, Everyone else knows something I don't. You're not your work. The lie, you are your work. Yeah, as a creative person, I get a lot. I still deal with this quite a lot. That I feel like my value comes from the things that I produce. It will never be this good again. It's just fear, right? Fear. I love these photographs. My wife is holding a bouquet. My daughter playing at the beach. Wonderful. John's my guy. Let me just tell you, he's a quality human. I like this article a lot. It's an interview I did with John, and I got a lot of his work here to post in the article in this kind of weird gallery. But the thing I like most about this article is that it's tilted a few degrees. And it was such a headache to get the tilt to kind of wander off the page, to always be centered in the page and yet have a tilt but not lean out and wander off somewhere as you're scrolling down. John's an incredible designer, an incredible person, a good friend of mine, and I was glad to interview him. I've done a few projects with him. He's an amazing photographer, a street photographer. Incredible. All right, moving on. This is a poster I designed and I was selling. It's based on the book Ender's Game. It was a quote from that book. My son's middle name is Ender, and so I designed a poster. Whoa! Travis will die in 2,000 days. Whoa. So this number is a countdown until I'm 80, is what that is. What will he do today? God, I was so serious back then. Look at that. Travis will die in 20,000 days. So this is a countdown. This is a countdown to my 80th birthday. It's pretty wild, right? What will he do today? So serious. Maslow. So this article is an analysis of Maslow's hierarchy of needs and then kind of applying that to creative people in terms of self-actualization, that we use creativity to actualize ourselves, and kind of comparing that to a hierarchy of needs. Good read. Who has time? This is a quote from a character inside of The Matrix #2. Who has time? Who has time? But then, if we never take time, how can we have time? It's an article about my tools, the tools that I use, workflow and things. Very, very, very technical. Oh, wow. This article is amazing because essentially it's just one phrase, but it's hidden in under a bunch of blocks. And you have to use your mouse to scroll over these blocks and reveal the message. And so the name of the article is Why I Admire Them. And it's kind of like just this empty cream colored page. And then if you drag your mouse over, it can reveal the phrase, why I admire them. Children are endlessly passionate. So the only way to like understand this message is to really like reveal it as you're like, desperately like scrubbing it into existence as you're mousing over all of these little tiles to reveal the message. I'm very fond of this idea, very fond of this article. This is very cool. Great type choices as well. What is this font? Gosh. So beautiful. Children are endlessly passionate. I think I used to be more passionate when I was younger too. I don't make stuff like this much anymore. We only got a few more. Chrome Companion is a concept that I invented. It never was made. It was kind of like a pitch for joining Google. This is the first time I think that I interviewed there. I did get an offer, but I rejected it the first time. I think they wanted me to be a contractor, and that's why I rejected it. Fun with jQuery show. So I was really big into jQuery back in the day. I never wanted to learn vanilla JavaScript, but I was interested in really examining jQuery show, because here, show is kind of like display hidden on and off, but I realized that if you slow it down, it animates up. And I kind of looked at that and said, how could that, come from different directions, left, center top? And then I examined how it might be used in a graphical way as like a loop or a zoom. And it's just one command, and I thought that was interesting, and I wanted to share that. I think my favorite part of this article is this header. This is a div that's like slanted and pivoted and rotated, and it's under a ping. And if anything, I would want to grab this ping. It's such a cool image, that eyeball. I love that illustrative feel. Okay, I am Hack WordPress, and you can too. I was telling Adam Argyle about this. That I'd created a custom WordPress installation to accommodate, like each of these articles is a post in this WordPress. So I eliminated like the regular text fields, and it was all just code. It was like name of article and where's the file. And so each of these is an uploaded file that I would develop. Bro, you lost? Okay, the 404. So anyway, this is the articles that I had been writing, and this is the website that I created back in the day. Oh, I also have a few links here. This is the podcast that I'm doing right now. It's on YouTube. If you just search up my name, there's a playlist here, and there's 55 videos. I have more coming. This is the podcast that I'm doing right now. And then just another shout out, because I'm also mentoring a web development class, and that's going to start in July, and it's going to be 10 weeks, and I'm going to help the class move through this course that was developed and designed by Nicolo Miranda. Here's the syllabus. We're going to go through visual strategy, design, typography, colors, UI. Going to be building websites in a no-code environment using Webflow, and it's amazing. I hope you actually sign up. So enroll, come and join my class. At the bottom here, if you click the radio button here, you can buy the master class, and I'll be with you for 10 weeks. We'll have one-on-ones in a class environment, and I'll also be reviewing your homework and sending you videos. But anyway, this was all the magic of the Wayback Machine, 2010 to 2016. After that, actually, the website changes from time to time, but it more or less starts looking like what it does now, because after 2016, 2017, I really started focusing on my career internally at Google. And, I I stopped making my YouTube channel, or rather I converted to a music YouTube channel, and now I'm doing this one here. And it's nice to be back and talk to you guys again, but this was like an era for me for certain. And I cut my teeth mostly on this website. A lot of the skills that I had that I would then translate into like professional jobs was attained through, making little, articles and posts and weird ideas like this, for sure. All right, well, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this walk down memory lane. It was certainly self-indulgent for me. I really enjoyed it, but now I'm going to go make dinner. Peace.